We're going to be using Pear Deck today so that we can have some interactive slides. So this isn't just a us talking Zoom type meeting. So if you could go to joinpd.com and then enter, let's see what they say, Victorious Violas Underwhelm Fragrant Jacks, the VVUFJ. Atlanta, that's not too far. Hillary and I are calling in from Columbus, Georgia. Hey, Terry, Sony says that they can't. Okay. Vicky's in Atlanta, but really at the beach. That's how I read that. Great. North Cross, Georgia.
Ooh, Argentina.
Argentina.
Oh, wow.
I want to go there someday. A Chile and Argentina are on my bucket list.
I have stepped into Argentina for a couple hours and then walked back out.
That's sad.
It is sad, yeah.
Well, it was beautiful. It was on the border of Paraguay and Brazil and at Iguazu Falls. And so, okay.
Okay, so it looks like we have a good amount of folks in here, still folks coming in. I'm going to post the link to the survey that all participants will be filling out for each session. All right, in the chat. And I will post it again right before we begin if needed. So if you could please take about 30 seconds.
Terry, is there...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there a way to pin more than one chat in the window? Is it only one at a time?
I think it does one at a time. Yeah.
Okay.
And as soon as you fill out your form, we're using Pear Deck today to add some interactivity to our presentation. So if you can go to joinpd.com and enter, I'm not remember all the fancy words, but VVUFJ.
That's what the words are there for, to help you remember.
Vivacious violins, unicorns, and fjords, the F and the J together. Here we go.
I think the middle letter is always a verb. For the 2 or 3 I've seen. So.
But U's always stand for unicorns. So.
Okay. Well, now we've learned something in this session if you learn nothing else.
Is there anyone who cannot hear or see the presenters? Please say so in the chat. All right. Do you guys want me to go ahead and start with the intro? It's about 4
Yeah,
after.
sounds good.
Okay. All right, I'll do that. So, good morning, everyone. I'm going to read the bios of Hillary and Dr. Carroll. Hillary Fleener has a master's degree in education and a master's degree in applied computer science. She teaches computer science and computer science education courses at Columbus State University, and is also the director for the Academic Center for Tutoring at CSU. Dr. Carroll is an associate professor in the TSYS School of Computer Science at Columbus State University, and one of his current research projects includes a thorough investigation of automatic scoring platforms. So without further ado, I introduce to you Hillary Fleener and Dr. Hiram Carroll.
All right, so hopefully you're on the Pear Deck slides, and don't worry about writing anything down or trying to take any screenshots. At the end of the presentation, we'll give you all the link to the Google Slides, so you'll have these to keep for future reference. Our project is about automatic assessment and our open educational resources Python practice problem repository. So next slide. All right, so we're going to start out with a poll. What grade levels do you all teach? So all joining us today, if you could share. Dr. Carroll, can you share the Pear Deck up on the screen?
Yes. Sorry. Did that do it?
Yes, there we go. All right, so it looks like most of our participants today are from high school. We've got some from middle school. We both teach at the university level. I did teach middle school in a last lifetime. But the material we're talking to you about today is applicable for both high school and middle school. So welcome. And there's a few of you that actually teach a combination of middle school and high school. So that's pretty exciting. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Huh?
Or potentially higher ed in high school or some other combination.
Very true, very true. All right, so our next poll question is, what programming language do you teach the most? So Pear Deck will only let you choose one, but if you want to go ahead and share which programming language you teach the most. So we've got some Pythons, block-based, Java, other, and if you want to put in the chat what the other language is, I realized after the fact I probably should have included JavaScript. That's a pretty popular one for teaching younger students. JavaScript already in the in the chat, yeah. C# and JavaScript. So our introductory classes at CSU, our CS1 course is taught in Python and our CS2 course is taught in Java, but of course we teach lots of different languages throughout their more advanced courses. All right, thank you all. Let's go ahead and go to the next screen. All right, so when we're teaching students how to program a computer, it's a little bit unique. We're teaching them a skill. And just like, for instance, students who might be learning to play a musical instrument, skill-based learning requires a lot of practice. And not only frequent practice, but scaffolded practice. You know, we want them to kind of be in that zone of proximal development, doing something that's challenging, but not too challenging to where they don't have the opportunity to make progress. But just as important as practice is feedback. And the feedback also needs to be frequent and it needs to be meaningful. When we don't have feedback when we're learning a skills-based practice, we're kind of left in the dark. I mean, thinking about teaching someone a musical instrument, you know, we don't sort of say, here's the violin, figure out. I mean, they can get some feedback from the violin, they can hear how the notes play, but very few students will actually be able to learn a violin by themselves. And it's the same with computer programming. The error messages that come from the compiler and the interpreter are not really suitable for beginners. And so it doesn't really give them meaningful feedback to help them make progress. Some students will figure it out on their own, but it's very few of them. So being able to provide feedback is a really important part of the learning process for learning a skill. The problem is time. Some of you all probably have more than 100 students, you know, each semester. And how do you provide enough practice that includes meaningful feedback that can easily get incredibly overwhelming? So one of our options to help with that is automatic assessment, actually using software options to help provide feedback, to help with that scaffolding process, to help with that feedback process, to help ensure that students are getting that feedback that they need without an undue time burden. There are all kinds of software available. These are usually referred to as auto-graders. They're basically automatic assessment platforms. Some of them are made specifically for providing assessment automatically. Others are actually contest platforms. HackerRank is one of those. But educators have found that they can use these platforms to provide feedback for practice problems as well, not just contests. So there's a variety of these available. These are just a few of pictured. And so our next poll question is, how familiar are you with auto-graders? So if you'll look onto your Pear Deck and fill out that poll. We actually just started with automatic assessment using auto-graders about 2 years ago at CSU as workload is increasing, budgets are being cut. People are having to do more with less, and we were really struggling to be able to provide enough practice with feedback in order to help our students really get where we wanted them to be. So we started looking into automatic assessment just about 2 years ago. So I don't see, is anyone having trouble with the Pear Deck? Oh, it's slow. Here we go. All right. So we have quite a few that have never heard of them or heard of them but never used them. So you are our perfect audience. A couple of them use, let's see, but non-frequently. So, but it looks like that's awesome. So the majority of you have either never heard of them or never used them before. So you are absolutely in the right place because we're going to step you through the process from ground zero. So awesome. And even if you use them regularly, hopefully you'll get something out of this if you don't use the one that we're using. So, all right. So we're using a platform called Repl.it. We chose Repl.it. Dr. Carroll actually did a research project that he presented where he looked at the different available options, what their benefits were, what their drawbacks were. We chose Repl.it to implement for our CS1 courses. It uses Python, which is the language we teach our Computer Science 1 course in. It also allows you to use Java, which we do with CS2. So Dr. Carroll now is also using Repl.it for his CS2 courses. So we were looking for certain things to be able to choose an automatic platform system. One of our requirements was that it needed to be free, needed to use Python. So Repl.it fit both of those bills. It also needed to be cloud-based. We had tried a small project setting up a server for one of the systems that you could only implement on your own server. It was very difficult to implement. It wasn't consistently maintained, and so we just had a lot of trouble getting it going. In addition, then, like most of you, we have to deal with our IT department. Anytime we're going to run a server and have students logging into it, there's some security issues and stuff like that. So Repl.it is entirely cloud-based. It's pretty straightforward to use. We found it pretty straightforward. It allowed the number of students to join a class that we needed. So the max number of students is 200. We usually never have more than about 180 students in a semester. So that fit our requirements. Also, the type of testing it provides input-output matching, regular expressions, and unit testing, which we're going to talk a lot more about later on, but it provided all of those options. So that really is why we selected Repl.it over the other available options. So what we did is we focused on our Computer Science 1 course. It's a beginning programming course in Python. Most of our students have very little experience programming at all. We teach about 350 students a year. And what we did was we got an Affordable Learning Georgia mini grant to create supplemental materials. And we created 91 automatically scored practice problems for Repl.it. So these included the practice problems as well as the tests to automatically assess them on Repl.it. We crowdsourced these. All the different instructors who teach it contributed some problems. We then refined them for consistency. We refined them to make sure that the students were able to understand them, and then we published them. So these are available for free on as an open educational resource published in GALILEO Open Learning Materials. You can find that at oer.galileo.usg.edu. Don't write it down. You're going to get a copy of these slides. So you'll be able to go there and download those. We've had over 400 downloads already since we published them about a year ago. So that's freely available to anyone to be able to use. Our preliminary results show that students are definitely willing to engage in the platform. The students reported, about 30% of them reported spending over 8 hours a week practicing in Repl.it. We had about 10% who said they spent less than an hour, and these really aren't worth a lot of points. They're about 5 to 10% of the total grade. We drop, a certain number, they have 91, but maybe only 80 of them count towards their score. So they're really not worth a lot of points. So the fact that they're engaging in them and spending time in them hopefully means that it's actually useful to them. 43% of the students said that they were able to submit it pretty easily and didn't have much issues. 44% said that they were able to submit more than half of them without many issues, so that's also some promising results. An example positive comment, the extra coding practice was extremely helpful. An example negative student comment was, sometimes my code worked, but the system wouldn't recognize it as right, even though I had the same answer as the checker. So it's not perfect. There's still some issues with it. We're still refining them. You'll see as you're working on it, sometimes we've actually set in the test that they have to write it in a certain way. And so they get very frustrated because they haven't written it. Maybe, we want them to use a for loop, not write out each individual instruction. And they haven't used a for loop, so they can't progress, but they're getting the same answer, so it can be frustrating for them. But overall, we've been pretty pleased with it, and it's really worked for us. All right, so our next poll, are you excited to see how it works? The rest of the time today, we're actually going to walk you through setting up an account in Repl.it, setting up a classroom, cloning our existing classroom so that you'll have all of those assignments that you'll be able to use with your students. So we move over to the next slide. All right, we've got exclamation points. So yay, we're excited. So we're going to move on to the workshop portion. So Dr. Carroll's going to take over. Please continue to ask your questions in the chat, and I'll respond as we go. So if you get stuck, don't worry. You can work a little bit at your own pace. But all right, I'll turn it over now.
Hey, thank you, Hillary. And Hillary, if you'd take that URL and put it in the chat to make it easy for people.
Which one? The
one at the top of the screen.
Got it.
And thank you. So if you attended the keynote, I'm really excited about this for many reasons. To put it in the locally, temporally local time frame here is, I'm really excited about this because it's free. And so if you're in a system in a school that has budget concerns, you're probably in good company, but you can leverage this tool, this ability without any permission from administration to get it going. And then it allows everyone to practice it over and over again. As the students came out of Computer Science 1 and they came into Computer Science 2, they said, hey, where's all the practice problems? We want that, we miss it. I said, oh, okay. And so it's been a wonderful experience. So what we're going to do is we're going to first invite you to be our students. It just took me about 20 seconds, maybe even 10 seconds to create this classroom from our existing classroom in Repl.it, just as a demo, so that a playground for you, that our teachers to now be students and to see what it's like. So if you'll go to this URL, it's going to invite you into our Repl.it classroom. And so you can log in you can create a Repl.it account, or you can log in with a Google account, a GitHub account, a Facebook account. Any of those will work. And don't worry about clicking on I'm a teacher. We'll cover that later. So what you should see is the My Enrollments page on the dashboard, and you should see this Georgia CSTA demo, and the Python indicates that's the language for the classroom, and then you can see there's 91 assignments. So if I could get some thumbs up or some yeses in the chat that it's working for you, that you're there, you see what is on the Pear Deck slide. Got it. Yay, okay, at least one person. So if you're not able to get it, please chat out, and Hillary's going to be on that. Great. Okay, so now if you click on the demo, the peachy color there, and then you can see there's 91 assignments. Now I'm a little worried about doing this because what happens in my classroom is once I open up the next set, I lose them because they jump into this and it's like a game and they want to complete it. And so I've opened up all 91, so stay with me here, but click on that first one and let's step through that. The intro one, Go Cougars. Now we're at Columbus State University and our mascot is Cody Cougar, so that's the background for the naming here. This is really Hello World, Columbus State University style. And you can see here there's three main parts to a Repl.it window. You have the part on the right, which is the instructions that the instructor types there. And then the part on the upper left is where they enter their code. And the part on the bottom right, you can think of it like a shell that they are running it in. It's not really, but it's close enough. And so you can play around with it before you can submit it. And you can see there's lots of other features like the titles up there. It has the due date, and I just set it for today at noon or just before noon, the green submit button. So let's go ahead and put in. Now, some of you may have never coded in Python before today. That's okay. And as Hillary mentioned, even if Python is not your language, you can still see how this can be applicable to any other language. So the way to do hello world in Python is print with parentheses and then use any sort of quotes and then type it in. And I would encourage you to do it wrong to see what happens and then do it right as well. So we're entering in print, parentheses, quotes, Go Cougars, exclamation mark, close out the print, close out the quotes, close out the parentheses, and then you can hit run or you can hit submit to see what happens. You can also click on the drop down next to run and then run tests. I don't know how that's any different than submit, but it feels less intimidating to say run test instead of submit. And you can submit over and over and over again until you get it right, which is one of the big features about and many other auto graders. Okay. So if it worked, if you didn't put it in wrong, you should see it be green. And I named the test regex because it's using a regular expression. Maybe I should have named it something more student-centric. And so, because it's being very flexible on the on how it's grading it. Okay. So can I get a thumbs up, a yes in the chat? Were you able to see it successfully submit? Okay, thank you, Ruth. And many others. Okay, so that was the first problem. You've already submitted your first Repl.it assignment. In my course, that would have been 10 points. Yay. And we would typically walk through the first one with the students so that we could get any issues out of the way and then let them loose on the next one, and they didn't mind at all having a freebie point-wise. So after you click close, then you need to click back to classroom to get to see all the other questions. And then if you'll scroll down to lists 05, reverse sort is the name of it. It's truncated on my screen. So lists 05, reverse sort. Okay, click on that one, list 05. And the slides are going to be available so you have all these details so you can go back through and work through them. Now, I wanted to pull out this one to show a little different view. So here we're using functions. They've already been introduced. We've jumped 2 months into the semester. And so this one is where they're taking a function and they're completing it. And so this is a hurdle for many students in terms of transitioning from displaying to then just completing the function. And so, but this helps to have several exercises on it. And so the task here is to complete it. And this is what the students see when they start. Often we will give them the name of the function because the tests require it to be spelled correctly. And if they spell it wrong, they can't do anything. We also do provide some that they have to enter it, so they make sure that they get those mechanics down as well. And so this is what the students see. And then this is what you would enter for a correct solution. In case you don't know Python, we're just defining a function. It's taking an argument, lists, and then at this point in the course, we've already covered methods on lists. And so we've already introduced sort and reverse. And so this is a easy way to reinforce that and to show this is a very Pythonic way to do it, to sort it and reverse it. And then they need to return it. And so that reinforces it. And again, I'd encourage you to leave off the sort line or leave off the reverse line and see what happens to what you get. And then again, submit it. And so you can do the run tests by clicking down on run and then run test, or you can go up to the green submit button. Now, this is what it looks like behind the scenes. And so as you submit that, there's three answers. It says, hey, you passed the basic test, the large test, and random. And so this is how you code it up. And we're going to step through this, but I just want to give you a view to transition into that. So we just write self.assert equals and then reverse sort. That is calling the student's code. And then we're calling it with a list. And then it's truncated here, but we're comparing that. We're asserting that with the sorted list. And so Todd, it's going to say Todd, Sam, and so on. And so that was just a basic one. And then here's a longer list. And then what I really like about it, okay, that's great that we can have those, but a student could hard code those with if else and say, hey, if the first one is Jan, return this. If the next one is or if it's James, return that. But what you can do is you can enter in, you can have a random test. And so here I provide what the solution, and students can't see this. It just runs and it says you passed the test or not. And so I just grabbed a couple of the Georgia baby names from 2018. And I just have it run 3 times in a loop to create a list of random names between 1 and 9. I'll using Python create that list and then say, okay, now with this random list, so you can't hard code it because it's random, call the student's code, the reverse sort there, and also call the solution that I just provided here and see if they match up. And so, okay, well, maybe I need to work on my tests. I'm just reading in the chat that it works anyways. So I would try submitting so it should not pass those tests. That's very interesting. Well, you got lucky because that's not usually the case. The random one, you would actually need to reverse it. So I don't know what's going on there, and have to look into that more in detail. Okay, so let's just take a poll to make sure we're all to sync up here. Were you able to submit those 2? So if you're not able to submit, if you could chat out why, and maybe we could help you. We are going to transition from being a student to being a teacher now, but we want to be able to help you and get the experience. If you're not familiar with Python, I tried to choose short solutions that were short. So you could just copy and paste because we're not trying to teach Python here. We're just trying to teach auto graders. Okay. Okay, so let's now transition to, okay, so you've seen how Repl.it works. You now have an idea of how an auto grader can work. And hopefully you played around with it and submitted a wrong answer and then submitted another wrong answer and saw that you can just indefinitely submit answers and get feedback, except in the case of our lucky student here, Rainier, that actually it did say it was right. I'll have to look into that more. But now let's look at getting a teacher's account. And so there's several ways to do that, but if you're on the window from the list 5, you click on the upper left corner for Repl.it. There, the icon Repl.it there. Or you can go to Repl.it/site.classrooms to be able to go there. Oh, I dropped the slide. At the very bottom of the page, if you go to Repl.it, there is a link for classrooms. So if you go to Repl.it/site/classrooms to sign up, Repl.it/site.classrooms, and then click on sign up to sign up for a classroom. Now it'll pull up a window for you, and you can authenticate with Google, GitHub, Facebook again, or you can create your own account. Or if you already have a Repl.it account, but it's from the poll, it sounded like most of you did not. You can click, if you're going to sign up for a Repl.it account, then make sure you click I'm a teacher. If not, we're going to cover how to make sure that that is clicked there. So authenticate using your favorite means. I like the Google one. I require my students to go through Google because then because we are a Google university, and so all of them have Google accounts that are their columbusstate.edu accounts, and so that's how I know who did the work. And so it should pull up a page that looks something like this. The text here by the little robot will be a little different based on your account. And so that's what you should see. It says, hey, welcome to the classroom. And so if you authenticated with Google or GitHub or Facebook, then it didn't get the I'm a teacher. And so you click in the upper left, the down arrow there to pull up account, or you can do this in the upper right as well. And make sure you expose the roles, and then make sure that it's clicked teacher there. So Vicky, I'll address how to, if you're at a state institution or you're K through 12, how to get a free account, okay? And so Ryan, to answer your question about should we keep the student account checked as well, if you want, you can be a student and a teacher, that's fine. I've had no problems doing that. I have lots of accounts with Repl.it and lots of roles going back and forth and testing things, and I've never noticed a problem with having multiple roles. Okay, thank you for the questions. Okay, so yes, and you need to scroll up to do save. Vicky, I'm gonna address the cost here in just a second. So you do have to save on this window to save your role. So now you can verify that it has the teacher account by clicking the upper right and showing that it does show teacher there. Don't click on it, just I'm saying with the arrows, notice it's there, and then that's how you know it worked. Okay, so now let's address Vicky's issue, and I said earlier you can get it for free. If you're at a K through 12 or you're a public state or community college or university, or you're a nonprofit organization, or whatever the equivalent is in the country that you're in. And so it's Repl.it/K12-form, even if you're at a state university or college, which Columbus State University qualifies for. Okay, So Repl.it/K12-form. And then here's what I filled in. And of course, you fill in what for your organization. So I'm at Columbus State University, and as Hillary mentioned, we're about 180 students. And then it has your email address. I will say it seems like they are just looking at the domain of your email address to verify that you are at that university. It seems like they have a list of what they should be. And so, so make sure you're, I should have mentioned this earlier, sorry, make sure you're authenticated, or your account, it has the email address for your institution to be a teacher. And then click on, make sure you check the box and click on submit. And then if that all worked, then you should have the My Classrooms, and it's designated here as it's a K-12 account. And so you should have the My Classrooms, and it should be blank. And as in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how you can just copy in those 91 assignments. Somebody asked earlier, can I use this for my college class? Yes, and I'll show you in 2 clicks how to do that. And then we'll also go through, start creating a new classroom. Okay, so this is what you should see. Okay, so let's here. We're doing this remote. We're able to create the teacher's account. So hopefully if you weren't able to create it, you could chat out why, and maybe Hillary or I can help you with that. So Bucky, to answer your question, I will go through at the end, as Hillary mentioned in the chat, of downloading the responses and what that looks like. And then what I do is I convert that to a point system. And so there's about 5 different classifications that they give on if it's complete, or if it's submitted, or if it's started. And so there is opportunities there for partial credit. Okay. The link for the free was Repl.it K12 form. Oh, I spelled, sorry. I can't see my own window here, so I'm typing blind. There we go. Second link works. It should work. Okay. So many of you are able to do that, create your own account. Of course, you have to be at the right type of institution to be able to get that free account. If not, you can look into having a paid account. They used to have community accounts. That's how we started, but they've moved away from that. Okay, so in the next 22 minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a classroom. I'm going to start with cloning our 91 exercises, which you're welcome to use, or if you know somebody else that's using Repl.it, or they have about 12 existing classrooms, which you can readily clone. That's what they're there for. And you can get up and going really quickly. I'll also talk about making a new classroom from scratch and how to invite students. So if we go, I'm hoping you're still at the My Classrooms page, and if not, you can just click up in the upper right and click on Teacher, and it'll take you to the Classrooms page. Okay, and then here is the URL, and I'm putting in the chat the URL to our classroom that Hillary and I made with these 91 questions. And so, and with your teacher account, there's a couple options. You can say, hey, I want to use this and practice it. Or you can say, hey, this is great. And since it's a community site, it's a public one, and you don't have to make them public. You don't have to worry about if you want to create one and not share it, there is that option as well. If you click on the import and teach, then that will copy the classroom. And so it's just one click and it copies everything, which is really nice. It'll copy the questions. It'll copy what the starter code given to the students, if any. It will copy all the tests that are included with that. And so there you go. Click, and you have access to the 91 questions. If you didn't blink, it shows up at the top, at least it did on mine, that it was imported into the teacher dashboard. And so up at the very top of your screen there. And so if you go to up in the upper left, you click on your username and teacher, then it's going to take you to the classrooms page. And you should be able to see that it has those 91 questions from our spring 2020 class. The link is off. It is. I am one of those people that should never, let me just, in case you're worried, I do not talk on the phone. I can't even say it right. I do not text and drive, okay? So if anybody's really worried about that, you're safe with me. Thank you. Okay, I got a digit off. Computers can be very picky. Okay, so let me just quickly go back through. So if you enter that link, it'll pull up that page and you can look at the assignments, and in the right there, import and teach. And then it should say you're good. And if to sync up, again, we want to go to the classroom page, and you can always get there from your user ID and then click teacher, and then you should see it there, okay? And you can rename it, and you can see there's 0 enrolled students, so you don't have to worry about, oh, will my students' names and credentials be shared with anybody? You don't have to worry about that. It's only going to copy the questions, the prompts, and the tests, and not any student information. So you don't have to worry about that. All right, so that was cloning an existing classroom. And you're welcome to use that. Enjoy it. If you find problems in it, feel free to contact me and say, hey, by the way, this automatic answer was wrong. There are a few of those. We've ironed out a lot of those details over the last several semesters with hundreds of students going through it. But it's a work in progress, and we would do it differently if we started over today. So let's talk about creating a new classroom. And maybe you want to use some of those questions, or maybe you're not doing Python at all. And so you would just click on the left Create Classroom from the My Classrooms page. And then it has you fill in just a little bit of information here. And so I put in fall 2020 because many of us are working on getting ready for the fall and wondering what that's like. This is a great resource because you can use it remotely, asynchronously. I picked Python, which matches. I put a little description. I played around with their instant cover art. I put in the text Python 3.8, and it came up with this logo. I don't know where it got that from. I don't know if it's going to Google Images, or if it's their repository. But you can type in different things and see what picture it comes up with. And then you can see there's a toggle button for private or public. And so I don't feel like the viewable only by you was an appropriate descriptor there, because it's also viewable by your students. But what it means is private means not anybody can just find it. The page that you just cloned was public, okay? So create classroom, and there you go. You've created your first classroom. It is really that easy. Okay, so let's check in and see if you're able to clone our 91 responses and able to create your own classroom. I am not, to answer the question, I'm not sure if they have support for HTML. They support 50 plus languages. Okay, thank you, Hillary. Okay, so many of our participants were able to clone and create their own. So this is good. Okay, we're going to transition now into creating our own assignments. And there's two major types of assignments, and so we're going to go through each of those. Well, there's two of you that weren't able to do that. If you could chat out why, we'd be happy to help you, or you can contact us later. I'd be happy to help you step through the process at another time. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to invite students. What's a classroom without students? Okay, so this is also very easy. If you click on the class, the one you just created, or you could use the one we cloned, you click on it, it's going to pull up this window that has assignments, projects, student overview, etc. And next to the student overview, you can click on invite more. And what that does is it's going to allow you to either copy and paste the student email addresses and it will send an email, or my preferred way is to take that link and put it in an email and provide some instructions. For example, I say you have to authenticate with Google. Don't create a new account, because then I know that it's actually that student. And I changed the URL there so that you wouldn't be invited to this random classroom. But it'll just put that in there. You can put in an email, and then it will invite them. And so you can push it. You can either drive them to it, or you can send them an email to enroll them. And so if you have a list of students in your course, you can just put it there, or you can send them an email and let them each do it independently. Okay, great. So in this quick workshop, we've been able to set up a teacher's account, set up a classroom. You've already cloned 91 assignments. Good job. And it's not even noon yet, at least in Eastern time zone. And you've created a new classroom. Okay. Are there any questions? You guys have been a great, lots of questions in the chat. Thank you. Okay, so now let's move on to creating your own assignments with an input-output assignment in Repl.it. And so if you click on the classroom, then it's going to pull up fall 2020 like we just were. And on the right there, under assignments, create assignment. I'm going to name this one sum of two numbers. If you want to follow exactly what I'm doing, then you could name it the same thing so everything looks the same, or you could create your own, of course, and then click on create. And it should pull up a window like this. It looks like what we've been seeing, but there's a lot less information. And so first, it's a little small. I can't zoom in. If you double click on that window, it will maximize. And so you can enter in what your description is, and you can just enter anything. I've chosen a real problem here to copy and paste, but it could be anything. And then in the second part here is put in your description. And so in this case, since it's Python, I did triple quotes and just said, write your code here, so that it would have no effect if the student included that or not. The third part here is to illustrate. You can set a deadline for this. Now, it will allow them to submit late. That's how Repl.it works, but you can choose what you want to do there. And you can just enter some lorem ipsum text if you want there, just to get the ball rolling, and then click on next. Okay, so in the next window, it allows for the tests and feedback. You have three main options: manual, automatic unit test, and they say that's recommended, and that's what I'll show in just a minute how to do that. And then input-output matching. So click on the input-output matching and then create a new test now. Okay, so we're doing input-output testing. And then it'll pull up a window that says, okay, well, tell me what is the input and what is the output. I named it example 1, which corresponds exactly with what I have on the description. So then that way they should be able to anticipate it. And then in the input, do new lines. So do 3, enter 7. And then I don't think it matters if you have an enter after 7 or not. I think it's smart about that. And so you just put in the input there, what it would be as if you were typing it on a keyboard. And as if you were going to go through all 100 students and type in 3, enter, 7, enter. But what's cool is it'll do it thousands of times and you don't have to enter it. Now it has 3 options here: flexible, strict, or regular expression. If you hover over the little eye icon there, it will say flexible means it's going to ignore special characters and spacing. And so I don't know that I've ever done strict. I've only done flexible if I was, and I've never done strict. Or I really like regular expressions. I think they're cool and they allow it to be more flexible. If you don't know what a regular expression is, they're awesome and you can look that up at another time. Now the output here has to match. And so including capitalization. And so some students get hung up on this point, unfortunately, is that so if they didn't capitalize P, then in please, then it marks it as wrong. And so that's where you could use regular expressions to be more flexible, but it takes a lot more effort on your part as well. And so do notice there in the output, though, that you're not including the input, okay? Because it's just the output. Typically, the way I often do it is I'll code it up and then I'll copy and paste it into this window. But you need to be careful not to copy and paste in the input as well to be able to answer it. And also think through, okay, well, what needs to be part of it to be considered correct in terms of, do they have to have the prompt right? If they just have to have a prompt, well, then you can use a regular expression to say any prompt, any characters, and then you click create. Now, best practice is before you publish it, by best practice, I mean, I found some surprises here, is click on student preview up in, and it always pops up this window. I wish it'd go away. I've had to click this window to go away 1,000 times and just say, okay, this is student preview. It's not the teacher view anymore. So if you enter code here, your students aren't going to be able to see it. And so we can put in the answer here, and the benefit of doing this is then when you click on run tests, that it'll run through your tests. And so we can see here, oh, it didn't work. And so you can click on show details. And so if you hadn't before played around with submitting a wrong answer, this is what it looks like. It says, hey, the teacher provided a 3 and a 7. It might be a little small on your screen, sorry. And the teacher is expecting to see please enter a number, colon, please enter another number, and then the sum is 10. This is what I saw your output is, and then it does even a little diff here, and it shows there's a little bit of spacing there, but it's flexible, so ignored that. And so the input was 3 and 7, and the sum is 37. Okay, so if you are experienced with Python, hopefully you figured it out. If not, you're probably already figuring out what it was. We needed to put int there. And I'm going a little fast through this because this isn't about Python, but to show how to do this, the slides are available so that you can go through this more meticulously. And then if you do convert them to an int first, and then you're doing sums by ints instead of strings, then it passes the test. And there you go. And so, oh, sorry. You need to click on back to edit up underneath the Repl.it icon. Sorry, I missed the blue circle there. And now we're going to publish it. So click on the green text and the white button to pull down that menu. There's several options. You can save it as a draft, so not publishing it. You can publish it now, or you can say, hey, release this for example, Monday morning at such and such time. And so that's nice because sometimes I'll queue them up so that they're all ready to go. Okay, and this slide here is to say this is how it should look if you got it all, if it's working. It should show up your name, that it was due, that it was published just a few seconds ago. No students are waiting for answers on it. Okay. Okay, that was fast. I'm hoping to, to see. Yes, there were some students that were able to do it. No, okay. So those that the almost or weren't able to do it, the slides are both in the description in our session, and also the last slide has them, so that you can go through them more meticulously and reach out to Hillary or me to be able to get some answers on working through them. But hopefully, even if you weren't able to do it, you can see what your options are, what you can do, and how it can be very useful. So I'm going to go a little bit fast through the unit testing, and then we'll talk about downloading grades, and then we're going to open it up for question and answer for the rest of the time. Okay, so we did input-output testing. Now let's talk about unit testing. So creating a new assignment, we're going to click on the green Create Assignment button. And this one, I'm going to do an average of a list of numbers. Now, unit testing requires that they have a function. So most of our testing, once we hit functions, so roughly halfway or 40% of the way through the semester, we transition to unit testing. And here, when you download the slides, I have this in the notes as clear text, so you can just copy and paste it to make it easier for you. Have a description. All I added for the students here was the function header, def space average parentheses and colon. That's all I did. Okay, so that way in the test, when it goes to call average, it's calling their code. I know they at least got that right, assuming they didn't spell it wrong. I set a due date, and this one I said it's due in 1 hour, not a best practice. And then after we set that up, we click on next. Now this one, instead of, we need to change it from manual to automatic unit testing, and then create the test cases. Rainier, to answer your question, other auto graders have that feature of being able to reveal it or not. And so if that's a big concern to you, you might be able to, you might look into other auto graders. The other option is you could use regular expressions, which look like gibberish to students. And so you could obfuscate the answer by using regular expressions. So when we click on a test, there's a lot more parts to a unit test. And so the first one is the way that the test name comes from the function that is used to test it. And so here, this is the top circle, def test underscore, and then you can see there's a text box, and we edit it, and it pulls out what's in that editable box to be the test name. And then the second window is a comment, but it pulls that part out to display when they get it wrong. You can give them a hint or saying, in this case, I'm saying, hey, I'm calling average of 3. It should return 9.35. I'm saying, try these. This is exactly what it should be. And I'm sorry, I changed it from average of 3 to average. That's out of sync. It should just be average. My apologies for that. Now, I left in I commented out the first line to illustrate a common mistake, because we're working with floating point numbers here. And so you would tend to do something like, at least I did at first, self.assert equals, and then you need to call their code, which you're doing with average here. And here we're just passing the list right there. and compare that with 9.35. And by the way, you might see right above the blue circles there, example test case. You can click on that and it will show you an example case. So it's fairly user-friendly. The commented outline here in the actual test case won't work because it's not exactly 9.35. So we need it to assert almost equals and then tell it the last argument there is the level of precision, and then create case. Now, I like to not only provide a hard-coded case, but also a random case. So to do that, we actually import random. So up near the top here, it says click to add an import. So we'll do that and type in random. And then we create a new test case. We're going to call it random. We give it a description here. And when we click on random, we click on save. It might auto save it. And then we need to click back on the test to make it editable. And then we can put in our test here. And here I'm doing it's going to loop 3 times. So it's really 3 tests in one, where it's going to it's going to take random numbers and the length of the list is specified. And then it's just going to calculate the average using sum and length. And then it's going to see if they are almost equals to 2 decimal places. And so then that way a student can't hard code the answer if they've just been sitting there long enough and they say, oh, well, I'm just going to return 9.35 and I'm done. That won't work for the random case. Best practice, again, click on student preview, put in your code here. Now I do want to point out the print statements here are not part of the submission. Since it's a unit test, it's only going to call the function, but they can be helpful for students to see and control both sides of it by printing out and making sure they got the right answer. And in doing so, you can see there in the black window in the bottom left, 9.3500001 is what it actually displays, and that's why we need the almost equals. And then we can click on run tests, and then it should pass the test. And if you tried the other one, you'll see that it didn't. I know that was fast. I don't expect that you were able to get it exactly right, but that's what the slides are for. And then we click on back to edit, and then we publish it so our students can see it. And there we go. Now I'm going to jump over this poll so we can get to questions answered. With the one last thing is, okay, great. Our students did it. Now, how do we get the grades out of it? And you may say, this is not graded, it's strictly practice, and that might be your pedagogy. So once we have students, and I just invited myself to make this work, and so you can see the enrolled one is, once you have at least a student in there, when you click on student view, it'll show you this window. It's not very user-friendly. Let me just be honest about that. And it'll show you the name. I invited myself, Hiram Carroll. I've done 0 of them. And so it just has the number of assignment, which is really hard because I don't remember the number of my assignments. But so I don't look at their little window here. I click on export as CVS, so a comma separated value list. And so what it does is it pops up a window. It says your export is being prepared, export to see an email the next few minutes, meaning seconds really. And so it'll send you an email, and the email has an attachment, a .csv file, and the fields are the ID, the Repl.it ID for that student, the email address for the student, their first name and last name, and it's whatever the student entered. And so I've gotten some weird things there. They have a field overall completion percentage, and then the rest of the columns for each assignment, it either has the string no submission or draft or submitted incomplete or sent back or submitted or complete. And so in this case, it's only going to have 2 columns, but if you had all 91 of our assignments, it would have them all there, and it had those texts. And so I just wrote a simple Python script, pulls in that file, reads it, changes the columns to be able to upload to a D2L system. I'd be happy to share that script with anybody that's interested, and it should be pretty easy to convert to whatever LMS you're working with. If you've stayed with us this long, this is a very important and interesting little plug here. So some future research, what we're doing is we're producing tutorials and surveys and gift cards for teachers, computer science teachers, to try out CodePost, to try out Repl.it, to try out STEPIC, to follow something just like what we did, and then evaluate to say, hey, I like this one for this reason, so that we can understand of these 3 free auto graders. They're all 3 free. There was a comment, will Repl.it always be free? I know CodePost, I've talked to the people who have started it. Their plan is to always have CodePost be free for academic institutions, not code camps. And so CodePost has said they're always going to be free. Repl.it has a free option for K through 12 and public community colleges, and universities, and then STEPIC has free option as well. And so if you're interested in that, send me an email. We've submitted a grant to be able to get some funding to provide the gift cards, and so this would be a great way to learn it and get a gift card. So send me an email, say, hey, please add me to your list for the auto graders tutorial survey gift card, and I will add you to the list so that you can be invited once we get the funding to be able to do that. This is now question and answer. We have some links here, again, to our 91 questions, or there's a link to our slides. Teachers love gift cards. Yes, they do. And so that's why we submitted that grant. Okay, please ask your questions. If you want to not chat them, we can invite you up onto the stage. Or I guess not the stage, but we can allow you to audio video so you can speak your question.
So Ryan, if you want to request the audio and video, I'll allow you to do that so that you can ask your questions.
Welcome, Ryan.
Hello, I'm turning off my video. Hold on. All right, cool. So this has been pretty awesome. The thing that I want to ask you about, the big one is that, you are allowing us to clone the assignments and stuff that you have made. So does this question bank actually work like a repo would? Like, are we able to make our own contributions and like kind of push it up to you guys, and it's a big living document that everybody's going to share, or is it kind of like a fork and then we have our own instance of it?
The second.
Okay.
I would love some contributions and some community work on it. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be really cool to take that sort of stuff, and if we extend it, kind of give back to you guys. That would be pretty neat. How often do you guys actually like use this in your course? And also, kind of like from the setup that it's in, it's just like this one big document. So can you kind of like, reveal portions of it as the semester goes on?
Yes, and I do that because my students just jump into it, and I kind of lose them. And so you can strategically, well, let me back up. So at Columbus State University, we have hours of instruction, and then we have a lab time. And so the lab portion primarily is going through these exercises at the student's own pace. And so then I float around, TAs float around to answer any questions about what's going on. So this is a major component of class. And we just release one chapter's worth at a time, roughly 10, so that students don't just get lost. And also they're not prepared for them. We have dictionaries at the end. Well, they can't do that week one.
So you're giving controls to kind of to see like basically which questions in this question bank are revealed at what time, right?
Correct. Release them. I'll just say
Gotcha.
Release them Monday morning or release them at 9, 10 a.m. So that way they can listen to me. They can be engaged in lecture, because otherwise they're like, sweet, I love these. Okay, that wasn't right. It's like a game, and then I've lost them. So it's good that they're doing it, but I wish they'd pay more attention.
Gotcha. All right. And then to wrap things up, I have kind of a two-parter. At the beginning, you guys mentioned you were trying to do your own solution. I was wondering what you were trying to do and why that failed for you.
Was this in Hillary's part?
Yeah, I think it was at Hillary's intro. You guys were talking about basically deploying something to a server. I'm wondering what you were trying to do.
Oh, yes. That was CMU's AutoLab.
Okay.
It looks like a great tool that works really well at CMU. It was a struggle to get it on a stand it up on a server at Columbus State University. But then as we looked into more things, we said, hey, this free hosted thing is awesome. Why should we spend so much of our resources trying to manage the server when we could just leverage what Repl.it's already offering, or CodePost or StepIc? I have a list of about 40 auto graders, and so there's a wide range of them. There's a few that are just free for academic institutions.
Okay. And then the last thing I've got, what are some current limitations of Repl.it that you guys are run into? Maybe some gotchas or lessons learned that we should be aware of?
That's a great question. So there is a little bit of limitation in how you can set up the tests. For example, it has to be an input-output test, or you can do unit tests. You can't mix and match. And so actually in computer science too, say copy and paste your code into this window, because I'm doing both. I'm doing an input-output test and unit testing, because they're very different in what they're exercising. So I wish it was able to do that. There's a lot more features in terms of grading. But I feel like Repl.it's a good introductory auto grader if you're looking to get started somewhere.
Cool. All right. That's all the questions I had. Thanks,
thank
guys.
you, Ryan. I would say to be careful how much points you make it worth. I mean, the students will figure out, it needs to be worth something to give them an incentive to do it. But if it's worth too much, they will just get the solution from another student and paste it in. And so, we found we couldn't find a lot of correlation between, completion and grades because of that, because you just don't know the, students who are desperate for their little 5% of the points, they've just a lot of times just made friends with some people and cut and pasted them. And that if they'd really worked through it, they would probably be doing a little bit better on the other assessment. So I would say that's something you really got to weigh carefully when you set up how many points it's worth.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Ryan. Any other questions? I'm not sure about CodePost for K through 12. I would expect them to be if they're free for universities. But sorry, I've been thinking about it mostly from a higher ed standpoint. No, so you can click and view each of the student submissions in Repl.it. And so you can see what they've done. The Repl.it has the option, they have to click on submit, either complete or incomplete, to be able to see what they've done. One awesome thing about CodePost is if you want to, they're API first. And so you could write a simple little script to download all of the submissions and run them through some sort of analysis or your own pipeline for grading or whatever. And so that would be really easy to do in CodePost. That is a limitation. I wish there was an easier way to get all of the submissions and download them out of Repl.it. I often require my students to submit it in the LMS so that I can do plagiarism detection. And so that I have a copy, and so I don't have to click 30, 60, 100 times to get all of their code, or next. Thank you. That was a good question.
Do we have any more questions?
If you do, there's only one Hiram Carroll online, and I'm him. So if you Google Hiram Carroll, it's me, and send me an email, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Same with me. I haven't found anyone else with my name, so pretty easy to find.
Well, just a reminder to everyone, there is a 15-minute break between now and 11:30, and we will all be meeting back at this stage at 11:30. And so if there are no more questions, we will close out this session.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Carroll. Thank you, Hillary. Dr. Carroll and Hillary, if there's anything that you need from me as far as the survey results, please let me know.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Great session.
Good. I'm glad you're able to learn something. In case anybody's still just hanging around, I wanted to say I tested my lighting at a different time of day than in the morning, and it came out very differently.
So true. So true.
I have not known. Oh. What? Oh. Okay, I'll look at that later. Thank you for sharing that. I was unaware of any webhooks.
That looks pretty awesome.
Oh, I guess I answered your question there. No, but I will have some experience in just a little bit of how to do that. I did not know that existed. That's what happens when you present. Well, this was fun. I think it was maybe a little fast, but at least gave you a taste of what Repl.it is, what auto-graders are. And you can see how, oh, this would be great to have 100 assignments throughout the semester that students can do at their own pace and get feedback on immediately, and practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, I'm looking at webhooks. They're pretty neat. All right, well, I've got a meeting outside of the conference, so I'm going to go get ready for that. So, but, anyone contact me for things. So thanks, everyone.